They're celebrating the anniversary, but what exactly are you celebrating? You're only celebrating the passage of time. Because for the last 10 years, this guy has been complaining to me of how miserable he is.
Most men think that women are naggers or they like to nag. Today we are going to handle the topic of nagging. But before we get into that, welcome to Happily Entangled AF episode 22. I am Asma and this is Fazeer. And he is going to give us the definition of nagging according to the dictionary.
Well, there are two things I'd like to do, right? One, I'll give you according to the dictionary, and two, I would also give you the definition that I gave you personally when we got married, right? So firstly, the dictionary definition breaks up nagging or defines nagging in two different ways. One has to do with like when you're asking somebody to do something or trying to get somebody to do something and you're constantly nagging them about it. You're constantly reminding them or asking them multiple times, that sort of stuff is, so it's that's the first thing, trying to get somebody to do something. And the second is a type of behavior, not necessarily, but also could be included in that, trying to get somebody to do something, but a type of behavior that's really annoying, because men tend to lump things that annoy them into things that also nag them as well. So sometimes you might be annoying, and you hear men use the term nagging loosely, but nagging is not just persistently asking for something, but also in the ways that you annoy them, especially if you annoy them in that way persistently or consistently over a period of time. So we lump all of that together, and the dictionary has it right. We lump all of that together into the definition of nagging. I will tell you though that when she and I got married, like all these hard issues, we had a lot of time years before to talk about things, and when we did get married, just after, I grabbed that bull by the horn and I told her, listen, just to be clear so that there is no miscommunication, this is my definition of nagging. And that actually helped. Like, you remember, yes, I told you, for me, the definition of nagging is telling me anything more than once. Like, I know myself, and I have my own systems, and I know that I'm pretty methodical in a lot of ways and that sort of stuff. So if you tell me the first time, and if you tell me the first time in the right time when I'm really able to hear you, and I take a note of it and I say okay, then okay, I am going to get it done. I'm going to do that thing. I've taken note of it, and we move forward from there. Don't tell me again. You may be able to remind me one more time, but anything after that is really pushing it, and that's borderline nagging. And that has actually helped us to the point where I could say that I don't have a nagging wife. Thank you, Lord, because this is like
because we have it down, and I listened.
Yeah, yeah, and vice versa, but today we're really tackling the subject matter of how it is that men perceive nagging and what we refer to as nagging, so ladies, don't think that we're just singling out the men's complaints of the women. This is just the angle in which we're tackling it today, and we will get around to it at some point in time, God willing, in future, to maybe tackle the other way around. So that's the definition, right, of nagging. So that breaks it up into two categories.
Correct.
Yeah.
So which category would you like to tackle first?
Let's deal with the category of asking somebody to do something, asking your man, husband, men folk to get something done. Firstly, I would like to say that even if you're asking your husband to do something, you gotta ask nicely. There are too many, and this is not me being generic. This is me having had many conversations with all the guys in my life, friends, family, cousins, uncles, etc.
Different ages,
and different age groups, and even over different years. Not just when I've been married, but hearing the stories from other married men, even as a boy growing up and that sort of stuff. You hear the things that men complain about, right? So one, I think some women take it for granted that this is my son, this is my husband, this is my, and you assign ownership, over this man, and so I want this done. So because this is your husband and he normally fixes the things in the house, you say, I need this fixed, right? Instead of, babe, could you fix this for me? And ladies, do not underestimate the importance and the value of asking nicely and not taking it for granted that he is the one who has to do this. Even if he is the one who has to do this is his role, this is his job, this is his function, his responsibility. Ask nicely. Like, that's the first thing to do. I think even we
like to be asked nicely too. So it's vice versa.
Yeah. So asking nicely is definitely the the first step towards ensuring that you're not nagging. Because for a man, when he hears you barking instructions at him,
how does he bark? How does he bark?
We'll deal with. I'll get to it after the short bit, But well, listen, right? I use you remember the Flintstones, I think it was, right? So Flintstones. Nobody wants their wife to be a Dino. No man wants to come home to a wife who's just nobody wants a Dino in their life. So you could start not being a Dino by asking nicely. That's the first step, right? The second step is this. Your timing versus the man's timing.
Right.
If you're asking your guy to do something for you, right? Is it that you want it done on your time or on his time? Because
generally my time.
No, you see that's something that usually isn't communicated. So one of the things that happens very often is that a woman might ask a guy to get something done. Let's just say move this chair, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy says, okay. All right. But he didn't do it right away. In fact, he's not doing it right away. He's made a note of it and he'll get around to it in his time. Now, a lot of women like things done, and not just women, but this is an issue,
a people
thing on the whole, We like to get things done on our time, but we don't communicate our timeline. So we normally wouldn't say, hey, could you do this for me before the end of this week, right? And even when we say, could you do this for me before the end of the week, we're asking on Monday evening, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You already told the man he has until the end of the week, right? But every single day you're asking about it. Why? And in that moment, you have to realize that the problem is not with the man, but the problem is with you and your OCD or your desire to have this thing done at this time or on your time. And this is also another issue where sometimes the woman might actually go and do the very said thing that she asked him to do. So you ask your guy to do something, you didn't give him a chance to do the thing, and then you went and you did it yourself. And after you do it yourself, you start complaining to him that, nobody just helped me around here. I had to do everything myself and that sort of stuff. And men don't understand the logic in that. Like, really, we just don't understand the logic in that. Why would you tell me to do something, not give me a chance to do it, and then go do it on your own and complain afterwards that, we don't do it like this. Lazy. And this is not just a wife thing. This is a mommy thing too. Mommies just do this real plenty. Not my mother, but mommies on the own.
Especially for teenagers, right?
Especially for teenagers.
Yeah.
So that's the second point, and I actually wrote the points down so that I wouldn't forget. And the third point is understanding how your partner works. So the first point is asking nicely to avoid becoming a nagging person. The second point is your timeline versus their timeline. And the third point is something that revolves around understanding how your partner operates. And this is where I'd ask you to give some examples. So because we had this conversation very early on in our marriage, and because she took the time to understand and I took the time to explain what works for me, when she wants me to do something, what do you do?
So I will tell you first, and if nothing happens, I'd let time pass, and then I will send a text message, maybe via WhatsApp, and then I'd let some time pass, and if nothing happens, then I'll write it on a post-it and stick it on the mirror, and just leave it alone. Whenever it happens, and if it's something I could do myself, and I don't really need him to do it, I will eventually do it myself. But
generally, I would get it done because for me, like I have a method with my WhatsApp, for instance. So I close off conversation threads, right? Like I'm not one of those people who just leave conversations open for extended periods of time. When I've taken care of everything, when I've responded to all the messages or done whatever it is that needed to be done from that message or whatever, I would then close it off. So if she sends me a message via WhatsApp to get something done, I would try to get that done quickly so I could close off the chat.
Which is a good thing.
Which is, right? And so she learns that, so she learned over time, understanding me, that, okay, so this is one way. And then another way is write it down and put it where I can see it. So if you put it on the mirror or you put it on the desk, you put it somewhere where I look every day, I'm going to see it. And this is a real cool thing I thought that she did, because I didn't tell her about the mirror thing, she just did it, right? Because it's like reminding your husband every day of this thing without you actually saying it. So you're still getting the reminder across, but This time, you're not the one who's going to be accused of being nagging. It's a written note that is placed somewhere strategically that he could see. So he gets the reminder every single day, sometimes multiple times a day.
But I'm going to update it. I'm going to start putting the date on it because he gave me that idea.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm going to start putting the date on it so then he's going to be reminded, okay, so 1 week went, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you know. She might start to set in and...
Yeah, so you see, the idea wasn't just to complain. It wasn't like supposed to be like a bitch fit today, right? It wasn't just a complaining session, but to share what we do, right? As well as to maybe offer up some other ideas as to what we could all do. Because let's face facts, right? If we could eliminate nagging from our relationships, at least from a man's perspective, like that would be like one of the best things for our sanity, for our sanctity, and to be able to call home a sanctuary. And speaking of home a sanctuary, we're moving on to the second element, right? So the first was like how to get things done, how to get your guy to do something. And the second is how women annoy men sometimes, and that leads to them, the men, just lumping it all together and say, boy, she's real nagging. Like, we wouldn't normally say she's annoying, we'll say she's nagging because she annoys us persistently.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. And it's a Trini thing, I think.
It's a worldwide thing. It's because like I follow a lot of international comedians, not just American but from other parts of the world too, and like especially the male comedians, when they talk about women's issues, they always complain about the same thing. So this is like this is a people thing. This is a sexist thing, a male female thing. So anyways, when it comes to annoying, right, I'll give you examples that I could relate to. Maybe there might be men who could add more to it, and we could talk about possible solutions as well. So for me, the number one way in which I could be annoyed is, and I know this for many other men too, it applies to many other men, is let me come through the door. Like, for God's sake, just let me come through the door. I have heard of so many horror stories from men where they don't want to go home, you know. Like, some men they go to the bar, they go out to line, they go to play sports, they want to go out with the boys because they don't want to come home. Like, because they can't face the reality of having to walk through that door and deal with Dino barking in their head. Like, as soon as you walk, ladies, like, seriously, give the man a chance. Okay, there are 10,000 things that need to be done. But when he walks through the door, and vice versa, men for the women as well, when they walk through the door, just leave your partner alone. Let them come home fully. Taking a foot into the door, coming into the house, doesn't mean that they're home. Home is a place of sanctuary. It's not just a physical place. It's a mental space as well. Yep, home is a mental space. So let me come home and let me get into a mental space where I could say home is my sanctuary and I am relaxed. I am calming down. I'm leaving all my troubles of the day behind me. Don't start barking out instructions immediately as soon as somebody come home, or you have 1,000 complaints and all that sort of stuff. Let your partner come in the door without having to hear a bunch of complaints or how things went wrong or why he's a failure, and that's a different point altogether, right? So the first one is let me walk through the door, let me come home physically and mentally, let me enter the house. The second is watching TV and eating, right? So some men, when they come home, they can't function until they get something to eat, or maybe they might come home and plump down in front of the television for a little bit and that kind of thing. And you know, to be honest with you ladies, if when your guy is watching TV, right, and eating, he invites you to come with him, he just wants your company. So you know how sometimes you want to talk and you just want your husband listen? It's the same thing with men, you know. We have a similar love language in that regard. If we're watching TV and we're decompressing and we are eating, because like for me, I like to look at something while I'm eating, right?
I had to learn that.
And I told her, I said, listen, this has nothing to do with love at this point in time. This is not I don't love you. This is me time, right? I love you, and because I love you, I want you to come and share this time with me, but don't talk. For God's sake, please don't talk. Seriously, don't talk to me. Don't talk to me. Let me watch the show in peace. If you want to talk to me and you have something that you need to say, tell me during the commercial breaks. You know, we have that agreement, and you know what? It works. This is how the partnership is supposed to go. You know, like
you have to find out what works for your partner.
Yeah.
What is the best solution for your relationship, because everybody's going to be different.
And there are things about her as well too, but we did say that today we're focusing on the men's complaints, right? So let the man come through the door, number one. Number two, when he sits down to watch his show or eat his food, eat his meal, that kind of thing, just let him be, let him settle down, let him have this time. Now there are some men who will watch TV for hours on end and then go straight to bed and not have any communication with their womenfolk at all, and I'm not talking about those men, and those are the exception to the rule, and that is unhealthy. All right, so those men are failing in many other ways, right? They're failing in their ability to communicate and that sort of stuff. We're not talking about those men. That's a bigger issue there. We're talking about the men who they're going to get to that space just now. They'll talk to you just now, they'll deal with the world falling apart just now, no problem, but just give me this space and give me this time. So that's two. The third is with regard to toilet time, right? So a lot of men, and some women too, their toilet time is their downtime, especially if you have like a busy household or a large household where you don't really have much privacy, or there's always something happening, or you're always up in each other's face. You go into the toilet, that's your time. The last thing I want when I'm in the toilet is anybody calling out to me or knocking on my door, and that, like, I go in there, just leave me alone. Unless the world falling apart, just leave me alone. Let me be. Kind of thing.
And
this.
Even if the world falling apart,
this. Yeah, know this. Yeah, and so like after we had these conversations, right, multiple times, and after we've had these conversations, now she will knock on the door for one of two reasons. Either one, because she finds it unusually long, and she's like, "Babe, you okay?" "No, I just check it." Right? Or two, if she also needs to come into the bathroom or get something inside or whatever, she'll be like, "You got long more?" That's how you last, right? "You got long more in there, baby?" Right? So at some toilet time too, right? And remember, we're tackling the subject of nagging through annoyance, right?
Yeah.
And the last 2 points that I have here are with regard to errands and people. And with regard to errands, like for me, it's a nag when I come home and then you want me to pick something up. Like, don't take it for granted that because I'm mobile, that it's easy to just jump into the car and go back out the road to get something, Like, whatever you need, please tell me when I'm coming home so I can pick it up. Because when I come home and I'm decompressing, I don't want to have to go back out to do those things,
Especially with the way our traffic system is.
Yeah, and it might seem like no big deal. In your head, you might think it's no big deal. Or it's just to go out the road to get this or to get that. But it could have been just pick this up when you're coming home instead of just go back over the road, So tell me before. It requires a little bit of pre-planning and that sort of stuff, and taking a look at your pantry sometimes or whatever it is that you need and that sort of stuff, and just saying in advance, communicating in advance, so that you could not have to put your partner through that. And it works, again, like I said, both ways, And the last point is with regard to people, and this point is really about I know there are many women who like to, I don't want to use the word control, right? There are many women who have a lot of opinions about the people in their man's life. So whether that is his friends or his family members or his colleagues at work or whoever, right? The way that you talk to your husband or your the man in your life about the people in his life is also something that could be construed as annoying, nagging, or just generally negative, and this is something that needs to change. So for instance, if these are his friends, these are his friends. You may know that they're not the best friends in the world, but stop putting down the man's friends. He is only going to perceive that as though you're constantly nagging him about his friends, or about his mother, your mother-in-law, or about other people in the family, the extended home circle, or about, so be careful as well about how you say things and what you say about people in your husband's life as well. If you have to critique, find a better way to critique. Don't come across as though you're constantly putting down his friends, his people, his family, that sort of stuff. Because as much as it's negative, and it could be taken in many other ways, if you keep saying the same things over and over, that friend is a good for nothing. And you know how we Trinis like to talk, that is also going to be construed an annoyance, as something that is nagging. She always nagging me about these people. She always nagging me when I go out with my friends. And that's a major complaint that men have, right? Like they're always nagging. They're always being nagged when they go out with their friends as well, you know? So give the man some space. If this is his night out, leave him. Let him have a night out, you know? If he takes care of the responsibilities, leave him to do whatever. Everybody needs their space. Because you're married or in a relationship doesn't mean that you own the person, doesn't mean that you control all of their time. You have to have healthy space for a healthy relationship, you know?
Yeah, I always tell him, you're not my boss.
and I never asked to be her boss. I asked to be her partner, you know?
Yeah.
So
it's a running joke that we have, right?
Yeah. Because like she'll say things to me sometimes, and I'll tell her, I'm like, you're not the boss of me, you know. And then she'll be like, I don't want to be, you know. So we make light of difficult situations sometimes to try to help each other and to work things out and that sort of stuff. But these are all essential conversations. And I was telling a couple just yesterday, you know, many of us have this idea, we've been fed this idea that true love is a magical kiss and all of these other fairy tales that we have been fed. But true love is having these conversations, you know, these difficult conversations to have that will afford your relationship a fighting, enduring, lasting chance. And not just fighting and enduring, but a thriving
Yes.
relationship, one that is happy, one that you're happy to be a part of, one that is healthy as well, you know, because how many of us are in relationships and we're checking the years, but we're not checking the quality of the years, you know?
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, because like I will see people who, like, I know men who complain to me about their womanfolk, and then you hear they're celebrating a 20th wedding anniversary, a 30th wedding anniversary, a 10th wedding anniversary,
and it's not getting better.
And it's not just that it's not getting better, but they're celebrating the anniversary. But what exactly are you celebrating? You're only celebrating the passage of time, because for the last 10 years, this guy has been complaining to me of how miserable he is, you know, and like that's not what I want for us or what I want for you. So the goal of sharing all of this is really to, you know, to help as best as we can. Now, I'm sure that I would have missed some things. I may have gotten some things wrong, and for that I apologize. It was never intended to offend anybody. So ladies, please don't think that my intention was to bash
him.
It was never to bash. It was just to help you to be able to understand what he means when he says you're nagging him, because I have seen it so many times where men complain that women nag them, and you'd ask the woman, she'd be like, I don't nag him. What stupidness is he talking about? I don't ever nag him. Because there's clearly a misunderstanding in how each party defines the term nag, you know? So that was the whole goal of today's vlog.
So remember to leave your comments below, share what you do as a couple, how you all treat with it, how you dealt with it, when, at what point in time in your relationship you figure out, okay, so I might be nagging him, or, you know, you learned how to do it differently, how to ask for things differently, and to rely on him and, you know, accept that he will do it in his time.
Mm-hmm.
So leave your comments below because we enjoy reading them. Remember to like, share, follow, and subscribe. And
before you go, I just remember this example which I have to tell people about, right?
Uh-huh.
So when she asked me to do something, right, like if we're in the kitchen and she says to me, hey, could you do this for me, right? And I start doing it. If I start doing it and then she comes afterwards to tell me, no, don't do it so, do it so, I leave it and I walk off, right? Immediately. And not like walk off in a bad way like we vex and, you know, I leave it and I walk off, because for me in that moment, I'm making my point that, listen, if you ask me to do it, this is how I do it. If you wanted me to do it the way you want it done, then say that. But don't ask me to do it and then tell me how to do it on top of that. So you have to know what your goal is. If you want me, and I have no problem with her telling me, hey, I want you to do it, but please do it my way, and this is my way. That's not a problem. This is my wife. Of course I'm going to do it, right? But then don't tell me do it and give me the chance to do it my way and then tell me my way is wrong. You know?
True.
Then in the first instance, tell me what you wanted. So we talk about communication being key all the time, but are we really communicating? You know, communication is not just about telling your partner all your dreams and your visions and your hopes and your aspirations. It's about the little everyday nitty-gritty, unromantic things that help us to live and love each other every day through thick and thin.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So we've come to the end of episode 22.
Yeah.
It's been a lot has been said, and there's so much for us to think about, you know.
Yeah.
And every day is a growing process for us. Every day.
And just FYI, men don't nag, eh? Men just annoy, and we just do it intentionally. Like I will intentionally annoy her because that brings me joy. But we'll talk about that next time.
Bye for now.